Hello, everyone, and welcome back to the 306 Fantasy Football Podcast. You're here with episode number 2. My name is Jordan Carrier. I'm one of your co-hosts here, and Armin Schellenberg, our other co-host. How are we doing today?
I'm doing swell. Thanks for asking, Jordan. Excited for episode 2. Here we come.
Absolutely. So, what can you tell everybody? What you've been up to? What's new and exciting in the last little bit since we've had our first podcast?
Oh well, it's been an adventure. I'm a new father. Well, not since the last podcast, but just recently here, and it's been great. And fantasy wise, haven't done too much with my dynasty team recently. I've been trying to look around, see if there's anything I can move around, but haven't done much. But fantasy basketball, I just made a trade today in a keeper league. I traded Dame Lillard and Ben Simmons. I got them, and I traded away a first and third round pick for next year, taking a run at the title. So
Right on. Not just a football fantasy guy. Hey, a
yeah,
basketball guy.
yeah,
All
oh yeah,
platforms. For myself, not a whole heck of a lot. I just same as usual, a little bit of renos, but actually it was kind of nice. I got to head down back to Battleford on Saturday for my niece's birthday. And see a few of the family, just kind of a quick get together. That was the first time I've seen them in quite some time, obviously with the pandemic, and haven't been able to visit too much. And actually that was so my nephew was born in September, and that was the second time I've seen him. The first time was just like a quick pit stop hello, but that was the first, like, probably the first time I actually like got to spend some time with this. So that was kind of cool to be able to finally spend some time with my nephew. But other than that, just been watching some college basketball and busting my own bracket. And that's been pretty well. Other than
yeah,
that, she's been well. I guess I did mention too. I've been trying to make a few trades. I wanted to get a Deshaun Watson trade just to kind of have a bit of a conversational piece on the podcast, but nothing's come to fruition yet. But I guess time will tell on that. So I guess we might as well get ourselves going here with the headliner or insiders and headliners segment. Yes, we have a couple pieces of news that we'll talk about here. We'll get ourselves going. The first piece of news: Drew Brees retirement. I mean, what do you figure, Armin? First ballot Hall of Famer? I mean, is that with even in a discussion? Or
yeah. It's kind of automatic at this point, right? Like,
yes, I'm. So Drew Brees, 20 season career playing with San Diego through 01 through 05, and then New Orleans from 06. So obviously this 2021 season was a late second round 32 pick in 2001. 287 games played, 7,142 completed passes, 80,358 yards, 571 touchdowns, 13-time Pro Bowler, Super Bowl 44 champion, and MVP. I mean, if there is a Hall of Fame stat line, that's got to be it, I would imagine. Hey, Armin?
yeah, I I think though, like, who knows, for first ballot Hall of Famer, maybe that's a bet that you bet against it, and you can make a ton of money if you won that bet, eh?
Yeah, I'm going to take the field on that one. I think it's
Yeah,
pretty automatic, but had to get him on the jersey on the wall there for his retirement,
yeah,
Drew,
looks
Drew
good.
Brees. But I mean, fantasy could do as much as you wanted. Talk NFL purposes, like the amount of work and the amount of the good he did for that city through the hurricane and through, I mean, just helping through that perspective, and then even just what he did fantasy football wise, or he did football wise. Just a pretty stand up guy, Drew Brees. I even put a little
Yeah,
mention here too, like as he was preparing to potentially retire, he restructured his contract, creating 24 million cap space for them moving forward. I mean, like,
that's big.
good guy. Like, he easy just to take the money, but
Yeah,
not only thinking about himself, but thinking about the franchise moving forward too. So obviously
yeah,
that's a pretty significant piece of news, Drew Brees. Now it opens the door for a little bit of QB battle down, I guess. We can talk about that a little bit later, but Tyson Hill and Jameson Winston. So two guys that are going to be battling away for that starting quarterback position in New Orleans here. I mean, if you had to make a quick guess here, Armand, do you have any idea who can be that new starter?
I got a feeling it's probably going to be Winston. They love Hill there. He's a great football player, but I don't think he's the quarterback of a franchise. He's not going to take you anywhere special, right? He's just an all around good football player.
Yeah, they paid both of them. We'll talk about in the contracts coming up here. They both got paid, so I think they're both set up to just battle through and see who it's going to be. I think Jameson was outside looking in with this past year. They gave him the contract to begin with, but with no training camp, no preseason, I think it was going to be tough for him to kind of step in that role where Taysom had already been there.
Yeah.
But now at least they have the offseason, hopefully have training camp, hopefully have some preseason games where they can battle away. But I just read the report there earlier today that they figure Jameis Winston's going to have the upper hand at this moment. So I guess only time will tell for that vacated quarterback position. The second piece of news here, and it's an unfortunate one. It's not one that by any means we enjoy talking about. I mean, honestly, it's a little bit uncomfortable to talk about it, but Deshaun Watson accusations. It's not good. Like, it's not good. I know we had prepared for our show here with some of our informational pieces, but even though again today a 14th person has come forward with accusations of sexual not sexual assault or sexual misconduct, or
Yeah.
I think there's a variance of them, but I have one here. I'm just going to read off this. I'm just going to read off. It was right off of Roto World. So it was attorney Tony Busby said last week that he was representing at least a dozen women who alleged sexual misconduct against Houston quarterback. There are now 10 lawsuits against Watson for allegedly inappropriate behavior during massage sessions over the past year. NBC Sports' Peter King reported Monday the NFL could place Watson on the commissioner's exempt list if Busby files any criminal charges against him, meaning Watson would miss at least some of the 2021 season if the legal matters stretch into September. For now, they're just civil varieties. So from a legal perspective, there has been no criminal charges placed at this time. And I'm going to mention too a really good follow on Twitter if any people are on Twitter. There is Drew Davenport. He's a criminal expert and with obviously a huge fantasy football perspective. So anytime like these accusations or charges or DUIs or assault, all those types of things that have happened in football that not only obviously impact the NFL, but impact fantasy football as well. He goes into great detail talking about what the process is going to be and all that kind of information as well. So I would definitely recommend giving him a follow. But he went into a 16 piece thread on Twitter talking about what the cases might look like, what the severity of them are, some of the information. But I mean, obviously it's a very sensitive topic. I mean, people are kind of voicing their opinion in either direction, but I think it does a lot of disservice and disjustice to be able to say like whether you believe them or not, vice versa, like either side. Because I mean, that's why we have the criminal system. That's why they can figure out exactly who's in the right, who's in the wrong. But I mean, that's some tough news, Arm. What do you figure about that?
Oh yeah, it's like you said. This is why we have the justice system we do, and it's very serious accusations that have to be taken seriously, and um, it's tough to cheer for a guy when you hear about that kind of stuff too. So um, we'll find out when the dust settles here what the courts say, whether he's guilty or not. Stipulation, like hard to imagine all these accusations being false or anything like that, right?
Absolutely.
And you always I always kind of lean on the victim side, right?
Mhm.
You got to trust them until it's proven that they're an untrustworthy victim. So
Absolutely. And that's the thing, like you want to believe either side, but at the same time, like we don't know any of the information. We just know there's the accusations come forward. Um, and like the report this morning, they're all a common thread. It's all to do with the massage parlor. It's all to do with essentially him exposing himself. And then I think the report today said that he forced himself upon. it's just reports, right? And just it's making comments, and we don't know any of the information. Like you said, the dust will settle. We'll know a little bit more, but they have come forward saying that they don't think that this is going to impact his trade value too much. That they think he's still probably going to be traded. I just don't know to where or what it's going to impact. But like you said, like we're fantasy football fans. We like to cheer. Like we have our own teams. We're both NFC North guys. But we have guys we like to cheer for. And at the end of the day, if these accusations are true and something does come forward about that, it's hard to cheer for a guy of that. Like it's not it doesn't make it easy. It is a tough situation. But that being said, like for a fantasy football, like moving away from the NFL and the emotions out of it, from a fantasy perspective, I think right now, like some people, it seems like there's nobody in the middle really. It seems like either you're on one side or you're on the other. Like, are you scared of his fantasy perspective or are you comfortable with it? And I mean, some guys are trying to buy him low because guys are panicking. Some are saying we'll just wait and see. Where would you fit yourself in that spectrum there, Armand?
Um, you know, his upside, if he makes it through these legal troubles, is so high that I think it's worth buying him, and his value is probably the lowest it's ever going to be.
Yeah.
You know, the only way it can go lower is if his career is completely done.
Yeah.
So I'm on the buy Watson train right now. If I had him, like I wouldn't be getting rid of him yet, because then you'd be selling low. So I think it's worth going after. He has such a high ceiling that you got to make a move on
Yeah. I've kicked some tires, but nothing's come up yet. Russell Wilson. Okay, last piece of news here we'll talk about. Russell Wilson, the trade rumors were spitting out. If it didn't happen now, I don't think it's gonna happen. Like there talks maybe it'll happen in the next year or deadline or something of that sort. But Russell Wilson and the Bears was kind of the landing spot that was potential. The offer was reported 3 first-round picks, a third-round pick, and 2 unnamed starters, and they chose not to accept that trade. Um, what do you figure? Like if you're the Seahawks and you had given that opportunity, would you be jumping on that, or would you be sticking to your guns and trying to keep moving forward with Russ?
it. Well, he is a franchise QB, right? Like there's no one better at the deep ball than him right now. Like he's super accurate when he throws that deep ball. But um, if he's unhappy, you got to think about moving him. Maybe the time's just not right for them. They don't really have a backup. Like, who is their backup even?
Yeah.
Do you know? I don't. So, unless they went after one in the draft, but then you need to develop them. So, you need to
Well,
sign someone.
actually, now that you say that, I'm pretty sure they're back with a seventh rounder who like got in a bar fight on on St. Patrick's Day. Now that you mention, I think actually, but I mean,
Yeah.
neither here nor there. Like it's
So that
unknown.
team is hooped without him, and with all those weapons that they have on offense, and they have some good, solid players on defense. Like they're still kind of contending. Like they're not a favorite or anything, but if someone told me the Seahawks won the Super Bowl next year, I wouldn't be like shocked,
Yeah.
but don't expect them to. So you got to kind of keep him because you get rid of him and you don't have a team anymore.
Yeah, absolutely. It's tough. It's tough to commit to a full rebuild. And I mean, as a franchise and your fan base, not awesome. As you can see, my Matthew Stafford picture behind me there. It's not awesome to be through a rebuild, especially when it's been a rebuild after rebuild. But I mean,
Yeah.
what can you do, right? All right. Well, let's get into our next segment here. Keep trade cut. This is the new homes edition. So kind of continuing on the thread here of players landing in new homes. We have one we're going to do with quarterbacks, and then we have another one we're going to do with receivers. So quarterbacks, keep trade cut. Carson Wentz landing in Indianapolis. Ryan Fitzpatrick landing on the Washington football team, and Andy Dalton in Chicago. Armin, keep trade cut.
All right. So I am cutting Dalton. I'm not sure what he's going to do better than Trubisky or Foles. So I'm cutting him. He's older. He's past his prime kind of thing. So I think you got to get rid of him. I don't even know where he'll go next year, right? My trade is Fitzpatrick. There's some buzz in Washington right now, especially after this offseason they're doing.
Hmm.
He has some explosive weapons for this year, and he has proven he can produce with less weapons, I think. So I think sell him now while he's high, because who knows how many more of these 1 year contracts he can pull out of a hat.
Hmm.
Like eventually there's not going to be anybody wanting to get him, especially as a starter. So sell him while he's high, and get some value out of him if you have him, and then keep Wentz. Kind of like with Watson, he's near the lowest value he's ever going to get. So, like, if you don't have him, maybe he's a guy that you target in trades as well. Like, I'd rather have Fitz on my roster this year than Wentz, but Wentz could end up coming back. He's in a good situation in Indianapolis. He's got the best, well, one of the best O lines in the league, and he's got some pretty good weapons around him with Jonathan Taylor, Hines, and then the receiving core there isn't nothing to scoff at. Like, they're not the amazing, but they're better than what he had in Philly last year, I think.
Yeah.
So, no way he doesn't get better this year. So you pick him up cheap, and hopefully he rises up to the level he was in 2017 again.
Yeah, it's a tall order, but I mean, if hopefully a new lining spot can help him out a bit. Same as you, I went cut Andy Dalton. I went keep Ryan Fitzpatrick, and I went trade Wentz. Same as you with Andy Dalton. It's just he didn't show me enough in Dallas to make me think that like the weapons in Dallas were there, and it
Yeah,
just kind of didn't come to fruition. So I think that he would be my cut candidate. Fitzpatrick, I'm going to keep just I think he gives me a better opportunity to win. None of these three really jump out at me as like I need to keep you by any means. And I feel like Ryan Fitzpatrick gives me the best opportunity to win. He's surrounded by weapons. He's not scared to air the ball out, so he's really going to let it fly. And he's been in the past, he's shown that he's been able to support lots of fantasy options, and he's been definitely a plug and play streaming quarterback. So I feel like I'm going to keep him, and I'm going to trade Wentz. There's nothing that really shows me that's like, hey, this is like why people are going to want to trade for him. It's just I think he's better than Andy Dalton, and maybe with some of the like what's going on in Indianapolis, like you had mentioned, maybe people might be a little bit more intrigued to go after a Carson Wentz over an Andy Dalton. Like I said, the Andy Dalton, I don't think Andy Dalton's better than what Chicago had going on the past. Who knows? Maybe change scenery, maybe helps him out a little bit, maybe better connection. But I will keep Ryan Fitzpatrick, trade Carson Wentz, and then cut Andy Dalton.
it's
Uh,
interesting our point of view on both of those. I went more with the building for the future, and you went for the value right now.
yeah,
Pretty interesting to see.
it's so funny actually. Like, thinking from Dynasty, I have Ryan Fitzpatrick in one of my Dynasty leagues, and I put out a feeler just like thinking that he wasn't going to play anymore. So it was right towards the end of the season. I said, like literally anything. Somebody give me like a late fourth. Like in that league, we only have 4 rounds. So like, it's give me like a fourth, like something. Like he might retire. I don't know, maybe take a runner or but be like spice it up for a trade or something like that as a throw in. And all of a sudden now it's like, okay, I've actually people knocking on my door asking for Ryan Fitzpatrick. It's like, oh well, you could have had him for a fourth about 4 months ago, but now all of a sudden the price has been jacking up. Like you said, there's some excitement definitely going on in Washington.
Yeah,
Wide receivers, new homes, wide receivers. We're gonna go with Will Fuller, Corey Davis, and Curtis Samuel. So Will Fuller now landing in Miami on the 1 year deal. Corey Davis signing the 3 year deal in the for the Jets, and Curtis Samuel signing with the Washington football team. So, and he also has a 3 year deal as well too. So, Armin, keep trade cut. What are we doing with those three?
all right. So I'm cutting Will Fuller on this one. I think he's injury prone, and he's a boomer bust player. He either has a big game or nothing, just hard to rely on. And he's moving to a young quarterback that isn't a gunslinger, right? Like if it was Herbert, maybe that's a better fit. But with Tua, last year he showed that he's more comfortable dinking and dunking, and he rarely takes a shot downfield. And downfield is where Fuller is really excellent, and he's not really a possession type guy. So this isn't a. I don't like this landing spot for him, so I think he's going to be actually the third or fourth receiver on this team next year. I'm going to trade Corey Davis. He kind of broke out last year, but I think as the Jets, if he comes out hot out of the gates, he could be a number one option to begin with, and then trade him before Denzel Mims starts breaking out. And then I'm going to keep Curtis Samuel. He's a do-it-all player with a coach that likes do-it-all players. So it's kind of a match made in heaven there for him. And he sort of had a breakout season last year as well, and I expect him to keep building on that. I think he's going to build the most on last year out of those three guys.
Yeah, building off what you said there, like Ron Rivera tried getting him. As soon as Ron Rivera went to the Washington, he tried trading for him. Didn't happen. Now you got him for not necessarily nothing. Like you have to give him a pretty good contract, but you didn't have to give up any other assets or anything of that sort to get him. So that's kind of nice. But I'm going to trade Curtis Samuel. I think out of the three, he's going to have the biggest return, and you can actually get a pretty solid return for Curtis Samuel right now. He's going to be the two. There's a lot of hype around him. He's gonna be battling for targets with Terry McLaurin. Like Terry McLaurin's gonna be the one.
Yeah.
So I think you're gonna be battling with him. Antonio Gibson, like he's gonna get his work. So I'm thinking at best he's probably gonna be the third option on this team. So I mean, if you can get a pretty good value for a third option, and I think you definitely could. Like I still think he's a good fantasy asset, but I think I can get a pretty solid return for him. So I'd trade him. I'd cut Corey Davis. So I put down here on my comments Corey Davis' 2019 stat line, and I don't need to remind too many people that Corey Davis was kind of considered a bust, like especially considering the high draft capital spent. I think they thought he was definitely a bust. He had the breakout candidate this past season. I guess like you said, he had a pretty good season. He definitely capitalized on that on a contract year, but his 2019 stat year was 43 receptions for 601 yards and 2 touchdowns. Like, not really a guy I want on my team. Now, it's tough to say, like, is the 2020 year going to be more or less what we're going to see? Again, it's tough to tell. But I do know that he's probably going to be the 2 option, like you said, the Denzel Mims. So, for the most part, that's why I'm cutting Corey Davis. I'm going to keep Will Fuller because to me, he is the only one here. Like, he's the only true one, the guy. So even though he signed a 1-year deal, I think he has the opportunity to maybe help to a little bit. Like you saw Josh Allen struggle a little bit until they picked up a true one and they got Stephon Diggs. Now, I don't know if Will Fuller is really a true one, but it definitely gives him the upside of being a one because he is the guy. Now, I mean, some may say, well, is Devontae Parker the one? It's like, I don't really, I think Will Fuller steps in and he's the one. But it might give him the confidence, like before it was he's throwing the ball downfield, but it was to receivers like Mac Hollins, guys that were just dropping balls. So I mean, my confidence would be pretty shook too if I'm finally getting like the opportunity to throw it downfield and then it's dropped. So I don't know. I think Will Fuller. But the other side to the coin here is too that those are juice numbers. Like he's gonna be suspended in the first game of the 2021 season, and then we're gonna see what is Will Fuller. So I feel like there's a little bit of, I guess, a gamble there, but I think I'm gonna keep Will Fuller, cut Corey Davis, and then trade Curtis Samuel.
Yeah, that's where I kind of differ. Is I think I like both Williams and Parker in Miami better than Fuller right now, and then they even got Gesicki who has shown flashes at time too from the tight end position. So yeah, I just don't trust him yet, but
Yeah,
I mean he does have potential to be the number one guy there.
yeah.
But
I think
I think it'll be the other way.
Yeah, I think I agree with you on the fact I trust Samuel the most. Like I think I trust him more than anybody else on there. It's just he's probably getting you this more solid return, especially with the hype right now. Like he's got the buzz, so it's
Yeah.
to be able to get the return. But I do agree with you. I think I trust Curtis Samuel definitely more than anybody else on there. All right. Our off-season segment of this episode is the free agent report card episode. So Armin and I both being teachers, handing out we hate report card time. Like I shouldn't speak on behalf of Armin, but I hate report cards. It's a pretty dreadful time for teachers, but
it's the busiest time of the year.
yeah, got to make sure you get the deadlines done, sent out, all the assessments, everything done. But I'd say that this is definitely a report card time that I probably enjoy a little bit more than the standard. So
Well, and before our new system, when you had to save it every single time, and delete all of a sudden, or the system would fall off or something, and
it's
you'd
always
be like,
report
"Oh no!"
it's always report cards time when
Yeah,
the technology seems constantly it doesn't want to work anymore. It's like, okay, classic report card time. My computer's crashing. Sweet.
yeah.
Anyhow, so fantasy football free agent report cards. We'll start off with the quarterbacks, running backs, receivers, and then we'll touch off on the tight ends, and then we'll wrap the episode up. Um, I guess there's a lot of signings. I'm just going to rifle through all the signings here on the quarterbacks, and then we can kind of regroup because I know there's a couple we want to talk about, a few more. Cam Newton resigning. I love to see it, especially after that was a TikTok video, and that kid was just rinsing him at like his own camp. Like Cam Newton shows up to your football camp, and then this, yeah. I mean, I'm sure everybody's seen that video, but as soon as I saw Cam Newton resign, it's like, okay, perfect. Like the kids yelling, "You're a free agent, you're free." It's like, no, okay, get everybody signed. Like you're like an MVP Cam Newton, and you're not a free agent Cam Newton. But anyway, so Cam Newton resigning with New England. Ryan Fitzpatrick to Washington on a 1-year, $10 million deal. Jameis Winston re-signed for the 1-year, $12 million deal. Jacoby Brissett to Miami, kind of as a backup role. Andy Dalton to Chicago, the 1-year, $10 million, $3 million in incentives. Tyrod Taylor to Houston, 1-year, $6 million, which guarantee it's a $6 million contract, but can be up to $12.5 million. Mitchell Trubisky to Buffalo on a 1-year deal, and I think it was like $3 million or something really low. It might even been lower than that. Ryan Finley was traded to Houston from Cincinnati, and then Kyle Allen to Washington on a 1-year, $850,000 deal. So most of these are backup situations, but a few kind of headliners that are going to be stepping into starting quarterback positions. Which one do you want to kind of maybe talk about first, Armin?
I guess we started with Cam Newton here. We talked a bit about him, and I like it too, partially because of what you said, and then I think he'll be better this year than he was last year in the Patriots. You've heard people say that offense is the hardest offense to learn, that it's extremely complicated. Cam Newton was putting in the hours last year to try and learn it. He had COVID partway through the year, threw him off track. Like I think this year will be better for him, and he'll prove some doubters wrong. So I give that re-signing, let's say, a B plus. It was kind of obvious. It's a good move, not a great move, but a good move by the Pats.
Yeah, I guess especially when you consider the options that are out there. So I'm going to talk about Ryan Fitzpatrick, the 1-year, $10 million deal. We talked about it a little bit already, but this sets up well for Washington. You have a couple of the unknown options, like he steps in. He's the one for this year. You can draft somebody. You can keep rolling. Was it Heinian or what's his name there? The young guy from Washington. The names escape me here. But he played in that playoff game against Tom Brady. Looked pretty decent, but I think this gives him some time to develop. So Fitzpatrick, that 1-year, $10 million deal, makes everybody in Washington look better, I think. Like it definitely gives the Terry McLaurin a little bit of a bump. I think it gives the running back situation a little bit bump, whether it's the pass game, the run game, whatever. And then obviously now Curtis Samuel. So I'm going to give that. I'm going to give it an A. I don't think like maybe even a B plus. I think just as the fact it's not like your franchise type guy, but maybe we'll settle on an A minus. Like for this year, it's really good. But
Yeah,
I think obviously he's not the future by any means, but it's definitely gives everybody a bump in the fantasy world of the Washington football team.
I agree. An A on that one. I love that signing actually,
Yep,
and he's gonna be the window. The window is starting to open for them, and he's the bridge for that gap before they find a franchise quarterback.
for sure. Any other quarterbacks you want to mention here, Armin?
Um, you know, Andy Dalton. I just want to say that's great for my Vikings.
Yeah, my Lions too.
Yeah, yeah.
No, the Lions need to lose more. We want a higher pick. Chicago's working
But
hard for it.
in all seriousness, a little under the radar one, Tyrod Taylor to Houston. It's the only good move Houston has made since probably COVID started. He's in good insurance to Deshaun, and um, it's just too bad he doesn't have any weapons. I actually like him as a quarterback. I think he's a bit underrated. So
Yeah, like you said, that the whole Houston and I think you said setting up their situation. I think that was the moment I kind of knew that I was like, okay, like Deshaun's getting traded. Like you're brought in not only to bring in Tyrod Taylor, but you also traded for Ryan Finley. So probably Ryan Finley would be the backup, I'd imagine, that situation. But
yeah,
you're setting yourself up to move forward. Like you don't bring in two other quarterbacks in that situation to just kind of sit on the bench. So I think it kind of really was the tipping point that like this deal will for sure happen at some point here. So
yeah.
one quarterback I want to talk about, and I'm going to give this signing a, I don't know if I want to go a full F, but I'll for sure give it a D minus. Is Mitchell Trubisky to Buffalo for a 1 year, $3 million contract? If I'm Mitchell Trubisky, I mean, it's tough. Like, you got to go wherever you get an offer. And maybe that was the only offer. We don't know. But man, you got to find a spot where you have the opportunity to possibly play. Like, you just lost your spot in Chicago. Now you're a free agent, and everybody's kind of doubting you as like you are not a starting quarterback. Well, don't go somewhere where you're gonna be buried on a roster. I mean, I like the only way he's gonna play is if things go bad for Buffalo and Josh Allen gets hurt. That's the only way he's gonna see the field. So why wouldn't you go to a program like, I don't know, Chicago? Go to a program like maybe Philly, where they're a little bit upset, like they weren't quite sure what they had with Wentz, so they let Wentz go, thinking they Jalen Hurts was good, but then Jalen Hurts looked a little bit sketchy at times. Go somewhere where maybe you can compete with somebody.
Or
Like you're
even
not
Washington.
yeah, like Washington. Washington be perfect. Like
Yeah,
Fitzpatrick's there for 1 year. Go compete there. Fitzpatrick leaves, then you step into that role. That's a really good example. Or even like you said, Houston with maybe Deshaun. Like those are spots where he needed to go, not go where one of the youngest quarterbacks in the league that is elite. Like you're not going to see the field in Buffalo. So
yeah.
for somewhere that you need to prove yourself, I feel like that was a terrible signing. And like I said, maybe that was the only offer he got. So then I guess at the end of the day, you can take what you can get, but he's getting paid less than a lot of these backup quarterbacks. Like Jacoby Brissett is getting paid more than Trubisky is, and maybe Brissett gets a chance in Miami. Maybe the thing doesn't pan out. We don't know, right? Those are things where we don't know how it's going to pan out. I'm pretty confident Josh Allen's going to pan out. Like he if he would have won the MVP, I wouldn't have been shocked this last year. You know what I mean? Like
Yeah.
so, to me, that's a terrible signing. I whether that's like fantasy perspective, it doesn't matter. But from a like an overall just NFL perspective, that's a terrible signing. I think Mitchell Trubisky could have done a lot better than that.
I I agree. Like for him as a quarterback in his whole career, it might be bad. Maybe he got sold on their quarterback coach.
Yeah,
Look at what he did for Josh Allen there. Maybe he's like, this quarterback coach is awesome. I want to be coached by him for a year and figure my game back out.
yeah, that's tough. That's tough. The guy that got traded up for, taken with the second overall pick, and then just didn't pan out. And those things happen, but I mean, it's an opportunity to maybe bounce back. Look at Mariota, didn't quite pan out, went to Vegas, and then when Carr was out, he looked pretty good, like a new chance of scenery, and then an opportunity to potentially play. Hopefully, things bounce back for him a little bit too, but only time will tell, I guess. There, running backs. I'll go through. I mean, this like we can probably hit off a few. I'll kind of list off a couple big ones here. Obviously, the Aaron Jones resigning. That's a big one. 4 year, 48 million. Chris Carson resigning 2 year, 14.6 million. The Kenyon Drake one, oh boy, I'm sure we'll talk about that one, but that one hurts the soul. 2 year, 11 million. Kyle Hughes check resign. I think people underestimate how important he is to that San Francisco offense, but that's a big resigning. 5 year, 27 million. Jamal Williams to Detroit, 2 year, 7.5 million. And after that, it's kind of smaller deals like Devontae Booker to the Giants, Carlos Hyde to Jacksonville, Marlon Mack resigning for a year, Malcolm Brown to Miami, Darrell Williams resigning for a small pay, Lamar Miller resigning with Washington, and then Philip Lindsay, I guess, is kind of a decent one, even though that Houston backfield is getting quite crowded now at this point. But Houston, Philip Lindsay to Houston for the 1 year, 3.25 million. Obviously, we got the three big ones. Sorry, Aaron Jones, Chris Carson, Kenyon Drake. Those are probably the biggest ones for fantasy. But I have a hidden gem that I'll mention a little bit after too. But which one do you want to maybe take a swing at first there, Armand?
All right. Let's go Aaron Jones here. I think this is great for him. Um, and almost anywhere he landed would have been great for him. Like it would have been hard for him not to get a good situation because the team's going for him would have needed him. No one would have been bringing him in to be a backup. So keep buying him. I think his PPR value is going to go up this year because Williams is gone and he was more on passing downs kind of thing. And the other guy left is AJ Dillon, who hasn't done much in the passing game ever. I mean, he said he wants to learn how to be a better pass catching back and stuff, but until he proves it, Aaron Jones is going to get that PPR value. Standard league, I think he might take a small hit from AJ Dillon if AJ Dillon heats up because they're going to want him on the field and they're going to be wanting to rest Jones a little bit and give him some breathers here and there to catch a breath. So standard league, he might take a small hit, but PPR, I think he's gonna actually rise up a little bit more.
Right on. I guess I'll hit off Chris Carson re-signing 2 year, 14.6 million. I'm gonna give this one an A plus. A plus plus if that's even possible. So Chris Carson, a 7th round draft pick, making a little bit of money. That's awesome for him. 7th rounder. I mean, sometimes you don't even know if you're going to be able to stick around in the league, but to be able to sign up for a 2 year, $14.6 million deal, it's pretty good. And then for fantasy perspective, it's even better because Seattle just came out saying that they want to run the ball more. It's terrible for Russ, but for Chris Carson, it's awesome. And to be honest, there's nobody else there. The free agent period is still young. We could end up where maybe another running back ends up signing there. But with Carlos Hyde leaving, all we're left is with Rashad Penny. And to be honest, I'm not super scared of Rashad Penny. He might touch in a little bit, but it's setting up Chris Carson to be a premier bell cow back. Chris Carson's he's been always kind of underestimated. Like his fantasy value is always kind of later in the draft than you would normally expect. And it's also like, man, every time you look back, it's like, man, really Chris Carson was drafted there. It's like, how come he wasn't earlier? And it keeps going and going. But I think this might be the 1 year where maybe it gets that little bit bump up, especially with the news of Seattle wanting to run the ball more and obviously being kind of the guy left. So I'll give that one an A plus.
I should go back on. My grade for that one is A. Not a plus, but A.
Yeah, still I'll take it. Still want to put it on the fridge.
Kenyon Drake. That's who I want to talk about next. I know you'll probably want to say a few things too here. I'll say the grade right away, right off the bat. I'm giving it an F. Yeah. Get that garbage out of here. He Las Vegas with him and Jacobs. Oh, I think like it's gonna be a fight out to see who the starter is, I guess. Like that, if they try and play them equally, it might be good for the team as a whole team, maybe. But fantasy wise, that's gonna destroy both of them because I don't think Vegas can run the ball enough with enough efficiency to support 2 running backs in fantasy.
Yeah. I'm well, as a guy that has a lot of Josh Jacobs shares, I am really concerned about this. Like there was conversations last year about Jacobs getting involved in the pass game. It was not bad. It did happen a little bit, but not a whole lot because Jalen Richard is still there, and they signed him to a pretty decent little deal last year. So he's still going to be their pass catching back. Now Kenyon Drake's coming in. Is he going to be the goal line guy? Like, I mean. At the end of the day,
really a goal line guy.
I know, that's what I mean. Like the NFL teams have to do what's best for NFL teams. Like we're on the outside looking in as fantasy football people, but this just stinks for both. Like if you own Drake and you own Josh Jacobs, like that's worst case Ontario right there. Like that is just not what you want. Like that is like you said, F, because it hurts everything. It hurts all around. Like you don't want to have either one because you can't trust either one. And I feel like it's going to be one of those situations where like, well, what do you do? Like, right now, I'll say, let's go with a name. Josh Jacobs or I don't know, what's another running back, and we can say like, who would you rather have, like Josh Jacobs or let's go
Jamal
with
Williams.
Jamal Williams. Who would you rather have? Like,
I'm almost.
I mean, I'm pretty sure that's the point where it's like pretty like close. Like
Yeah,
last year, you're talking about Austin Eckler or taking Jacobs. Like which
yeah.
one? And then it was like, okay,
Near the
flip flop.
top.
Now it's a clear cut, like not even a competition. Like even Ronald Jones. I think I'd rather have Ronald Jones than
Yeah,
Josh Jacobs right now. Like
I would.
that's he's well, Fournette's gone, so as of right now, like he's kind of the guy. But once again, like Ronald Jones was nothing to be desired like last
No.
year. But now it's like, okay, clear cut over Jacobs, which just because it's the uncertainty, and I feel like they're both just going to hurt each other. It's not the ideal situation.
Even like Todd Gurley right now has more fantasy value.
Yeah. And he's not even on a team right now. Like, oh man. Any other running backs you want to mention, Armin? I know I do have one left here, but maybe I'll actually, no, I'll mention it now. We did talk about Jamal Williams, and now I think Jamal Williams is somebody that I think is going to be a good asset. Because as a 2-year, $7.5 million deal, staying in division, some people are like, you know what, that's gonna hurt a lot of stock. That's the Detroit doesn't run the ball, and like, but they obviously want to. Like they're bringing him in. Swift's there, and everybody's all scared that this is going to hurt Swift's value. Now, I think Jamal Williams is kind of going to be a sneaky play coming into draft season because, like, the pass catcher. That's what everybody wanted, the Swift to get involved in the pass game, and he is was kind of slotted into that. But now as Jamal Williams, you've seen what he did in Green Bay. He can catch the ball, and he is in their fast-paced tempo offense. So I mean, I think he still holds a little bit of value, and he might be somebody that you can get pretty cheap and might be a sneaky play coming into the next year.
Yeah. My sneaky would be Philip Lindsay. I like like there's tons of RBs there now and it's saturated, but he is a potential sleeper. David Johnson wasn't lighting the world on fire last year. It would be super easy for Lindsay to come in and steal that starting job
Yeah.
because he probably is the best or at least close to the best on that team now. So it could be a sneaky pick to pick him up.
Yeah, just the only problem is with just such a busy backfield, like he has to emerge. So you might
Yeah.
be sitting on him for a little bit, but I do agree with you that I don't I think it's gonna be hard to beat out Mark Ingram. Like that's something still like kind of I don't quite understand a little bit, but the Lindsay one I do agree with you. He's younger. I think he's more talented, so I think it's just gonna take a little bit of time for him to be able to play that one out.
Yeah.
Wide receivers. I'll go through the list here. I mean, there's a ton. Some worth mentioning. Some I'll just kind of browse over to talk about them being on a new team, I guess. But Kenny Golladay to the Giants, 4-year, 72 million, 40 guaranteed. Corey Davis to the Jets, 3-year, 37.5 million, 27 guaranteed. Juju Smith-Schuster resigning 1 year, 8 million. Will Fuller to Miami, 1 year, up to $10 million. Curtis Samuel to Washington for the 3 years, 3.5 million, 24.5 million guaranteed. Kendrick Bourne and Nelson Aguilar both went to New England. Nelson Aguilar got a pretty big payday. He was one of the first receivers to come off the board there. He ended up getting 2 years, 26 million, which is pretty good for Aguilar when he got
Yeah.
basically booed out of Philly.
Yeah.
Jamal Agnew to Jacksonville. Marvin Jones to Jacksonville as well. So 2 Detroit guys ended up going to Jacksonville. Jones's contract was a 2-year, 14.5 million, 9.2 guaranteed. John Brown to Vegas. Emmanuel Sanders to Buffalo, AJ Green to Arizona, Keelan Cole to the Jets, John Ross to the Giants, Josh Reynolds to Tennessee, and then Houston kind of picking up a bunch of random Dante Moncrief, Alex Erickson, Chris Conley. Other than that, that kind of breaks it. David Moore ends up to Carolina for 2 years, Brashad Perriman to Detroit for a year. I think that pretty well does it. Like, there's a few more, but not really worth mentioning a whole heck of a lot. But a few we can talk about here. Who's one you want to take a swing at right off the bat, Armand?
All right. Let's start with Juju re-signing here. Um, he's in a known situation, and we roughly know what to expect from him this year. And that's not going to change too much, I don't think. I think where it hurts fantasy wise is if you have James Washington stocks. if Juju would have left, Washington would have been going up, up, up. But I think the way it worked out last year, I think it's going to continue that way. Washington's not going to see the field too much, and it's going to be mostly Claypool, Johnson, and Juju out on the field, and I think they can still support three receivers that way because they have no run game and they haven't signed a running back.
Yeah.
So I think it'll continue to be same old as last year for that receiving group.
Yeah, so I wasn't actually going to double up, but I think I am going to talk about Juju there for a second. I don't know what kind of grade value you were going to give him there, but I gave it a D minus. And I
Uh,
mean, maybe to him, whatever, but like maybe not like fantasy wise, it sucked. Juju leaving would have been awesome, like you said, for the leftover receivers that were there, would have been
yeah,
great. But I also think it sucks for him, like for anybody that owned Juju. Like if you're gonna take, so he's betting on himself, taking the 1 year deal, betting on himself. Like he didn't get the big
yeah,
contract like he was expecting. Take a 1 year flyer in a team to help you like really showcase yourself. And I don't think Pittsburgh is the team to showcase yourself. Like
no,
it's going to be no different than last year. And I know he made a statement saying he wants to stay in Pittsburgh, wants to be there long term, all those types of things, right? But like for me, why wouldn't you take the 1 year flyer, go to Green Bay? You get paid very minimal, take the year. And are you telling me that Aaron Rodgers can't make you look better than Ben Roethlisberger? You're going to be a clear cut two in Green Bay in a team that likes to move the ball and moves the ball well. Where in Pittsburgh, you can argue, is he the one? Is he the two? Is he the three? Like it's kind of hard to tell. Like Deontay
some games he
Johnson,
was the four.
exactly. Like Deontay Johnson, I think is
Yeah,
the one, maybe the two. It's kind of hard to tell. Claypool coming off a really good season, he could be the two, he could be the three, he could be one. It's a lot of uncertainty. I feel
yeah,
like that was a tough, not a very good spot for him. But Kenny Galladay to the Jets. That's I'm gonna give that, or to the Jets, sorry, to the Giants. My apology. I'm gonna give that one a B plus.
yeah,
Okay. Gets the payday, big money. But it's one of those ones where it could have been worse and it could have been better. Like you could have been Baltimore and you could have been really upset with your fantasy stocks. Or you could have ended up in, I don't know, like a real pass heavy offense. But of all the one, like I think of all the teams that are rumored around, I think the Giants ended up being a not bad landing spot. It's just, do you really trust what's happening there? Like, they obviously want to run the ball first, but do you trust Jones to be able to move the ball? I think this is gonna be a big telling year for him, like kind of almost like a sink or swim type year. So you got to surround him with the weapons, because if you can't do it with the weapons around him, he's never gonna get it done. So I feel like it's a good situation for him. He gets paid. Um, Fantasy wise, it's a little bit of unknown, but I mean, you still have a premier talented receiver on your fantasy team, so it can't doesn't get much worse. Like it could have been the Baltimore, it could have been a whole lot worse. So
yeah. I agree with your analysis completely. I actually pretty much had the exact same thing verbatim written down for him. I would have given it a C, but also Juju, I give a C to that one
oh
as
yeah,
well. They're average moves. They're not move the needle moves.
for sure. We talked about Will Fuller already. We talked about Curtis Samuel already. I mean, like, do you want to maybe talk a little bit more about that, or are we good moving on from those two?
I think yeah, we talked about them enough. I think
Um,
I
couple.
kind of want to talk about Marvin Jones here.
Okay.
Um, he's the most proven receiver there now. Connolly's gone, so it's kind of him and Westbrook, and then Chanot kind of hoping to break out here soon. So I don't mind the move for him actually, especially if it's Trevor Lawrence. He'll be a nice veteran presence for him, and I think it could help out both Trevor Lawrence and him,
Yeah,
fantasy wise.
he's got that deep threat option.
Yeah,
He's I mean, he did it with Detroit. Hopefully Lawrence can be able to air the ball up for him too. I think I don't
he's
know
an
if it was
underrated
my
player.
I don't know if it was my favorite landing spot for him. I think there was other spots that could have been
Yeah,
a little bit nicer for him, but I mean at the end of the day, it's go where the money is, right? So
I give that one a B minus, kind of in
yeah,
that
and
area.
I said a C plus, so kind of right in the wheelhouse there.
Yeah,
Emmanuel Sanders, it's one of those ones that's just a senior deal. Go and be a veteran presence. But I do want to mention AJ Green. I think that's a pretty good signing. It sucks for if the Arizona Cardinals receivers that you're hoping to get the next year jump, like some of those younger guys.
yeah,
Because I think he's going to take up quite a few targets. Like obviously Hopkins is going to get his work, but then I think AJ Green's going to become the next target, where you saw the end zone targets or the red zone targets, sorry, especially in the end zone, didn't really go to Hopkins. I think now that's where AJ Green's going to step in, because before you saw those targets kind of getting sprinkled around. I mean, Isabella kind of got a bit of work in there. Like it was kind of that
Kirk
end zone
did a
work.
bit too.
Yeah, Dan Arnold, even though he's on a new team now, he got some of the end zone. Like I don't think you can automatically say that's going to Hopkins now, like I said, didn't to begin with. But I think AJ Green, being a big body, I think he's going to be definitely a guy to target for fantasy value, because I think he's going to have quite a few touchdowns in the red zone. But
Yeah,
it's
I
he's older, but take what you can get, right?
yeah, I agree. Like after analyzing it a little bit closer and looking at things in Arizona, I give that one an A-, kind of grade. Um, he'll do better than he did last year. I originally was like, is he going to be fantasy relevant again? And then I kind of looked a little bit closer at it, and I was like, I didn't realize Dan Arnold left, and like he actually put up not like amazing numbers, but there's 500 yards there that needs to be taken up.
Yeah,
And then you think about like the production Kirk had last year. Again, not amazing, but good yardage, good amount of touchdowns. AJ Green should be ahead of him in the pecking order there too.
I would assume so for sure.
Yeah, so I think there's going to be good opportunity for him there, like you said, and he's a big body that can be targeted in the red zone for Murray, instead of Murray always having to scramble and make things up on his own now.
Absolutely. One last one before we move on here. I just want to mention Josh Reynolds, Tennessee, with Corey Davis kind of leaving. I think Josh Reynolds steps into that role. Like he was kind of a sneaky play with the Rams. Now signing with Tennessee, I think he's going to be a sneaky play. Like he could be a late round pickup, or like a late round draft pick type thing, that I think he's going to have some upside. Obviously, AJ Brown's their one, but who's going to be their two? It was vacant until Josh Reynolds signed. So I think like that's the one that's going to go under the radar a little bit. So I feel like definitely come draft season, I think we're going to hear his name on this show a couple of times, because I feel like he's going to be one of my sneaky pickups. But
Yeah, that I agree with that. And with Janu Smith leaving too, it
yeah,
does open it up
yeah,
a
we'll
bit
talk
more.
about him leaving with one of my other sneaky plays, I guess.
Yeah.
Apparently, I'm being sneaky about Tennessee, but I think it's a little bit late to jump on that wagon. But tight ends. So the two big
Oh,
ones, Jonu Smith and Hunter Henry to New England. 4-year, $50 million for Jonu, and 3-year, $37.5 million for Hunter Henry. Gronkowski re-signing for 1 year, $10 million. Anthony Firster resigning for 1 year deal with Tennessee. Jared Cook 1 year, up to $6 million for the Chargers. Gerald Everett to Seattle. Kyle Rudolph to the Giants. Dan Arnold to Carolina. Tyler Croft to the Jets. Jacob Hollister to Buffalo. And then Ryan Izzo got traded from New England to Houston for a 7th rounder. So a few names to talk about. I mean, tight end position is kind of one of those ones where you never know what you're going to get, but new landing spots can mix things up a little bit. So we can take a swing here, Armin. I know you want to talk about the tight ends a little bit in the next segment, so maybe we'll kind of hold off on those two, or what do you figure?
uh, yeah, we can hold off on Janu and Henry
Yeah,
till the next segment. I'll go to Gerald Everett here. I think this one low key is big. I give it a football grade of A+ for Seattle, and then fantasy wise, I'll give it a B+. He when Russ has a good tight end, he targets him. You look at when Disley's healthy, Disley's getting yards and touchdowns. So I think Everett is an upgrade, both versatility wise for Russ, and just like being able to stay on the field wise for Russ. Disley was a good receiver, but I think Everett's going to end up seeing the field a bit more than Disley, and I think he could end up becoming relevant, especially if he fully takes it away from Disley and become maybe a top 10
yeah.
production.
That news is also big for Higbee too. Like with him leaving, that leaves the door wide open in LA. So it's interesting to see what Stafford maybe does with Higbee. I know Goff really like targeting him. We'll see what Stafford has to do. But that news is big on two different spectrums, because before it was kind of crowded. And now you know what you got with both of them and being in two different landing spots. Jared Cook is one I liked. The replacing that Hunter Henry leaving, he steps into that role. I think this is going to be big. I think he's going to be a target that's going to be found in that end zone. The only problem is it's going to be hard to know going into this year Is it going to be more of the same of just the Keenan Allen show, or is it going to be spread around a little bit more? But I think Jared Cook, especially as a kind of a late round tight end pickup, I think definitely with some upside there. Other than that, the Anthony Firsker, I think he's too is a potential breakout candidate unless like Tennessee picks somebody else up. Like there was times where he out targeted and had more receptions than Jonnu while they are both in Tennessee. Now Jonnu leaves that door wide open for Firsker. So I think he might be like a little hidden gem kind of going into the draft season next year, especially just throw the tight end position to the Wolves and take it late. That might be a guy that you can take your shot on and might be able to, like I said, maybe find a little bit of gold at the end of the draft.
Yeah, I can see that. I can definitely see that.
Um, Anybody else you want to mention there? I know Gronkowski got signed. We kind of talked about that last episode, but is there anybody else you want to maybe mention before we move on to our final segment?
I'd keep an eye on Rudolph here. Engram gets hurt a lot, so Rudolph could be a good waiver wire pickup in the season. So just make sure you watch the Giants and see if Engram gets hurt, and then pick up Rudolph because that could be a good one.
Yeah, I'm a little bit like I just saw the report probably actually 20 minutes before we started here that apparently after they picked him up, doing their physical, they're actually a little bit more concerned about his foot, I guess. So it might be something to kind of watch for there too and see just the saga of his health check, I guess.
Breaking news.
Yeah, in pod news break, I guess.
Yeah.
Okay, final segment here, the ice cold hot takes. This is kind of funny when we were both talking about what we were going to discuss, and I was like, oh hey, well, same topic, just apparently polar opposite opinions. So I'll let Armin take it away first here. Armin, your ice cold hot take. Let's hear it for today's episode.
All right, we're going to Janu Smith and Hunter Henry here. I am giving those a grade of A because I think, in my ice cold hot take here, that both of them will finish in the top 8 in fantasy for tight ends this year. Okay, this is my reasoning behind it. This is how I'm seeing it here. Is Bill Belichick? He loves to not show his hand, right? He's trying to be sneaky. That's why he loved Gronk so much, right? Is he could have Gronk on the field. They wouldn't know whether it's a run or a pass. Okay, I think with both Henry and Smith, they're both very versatile. They can play kind of all over the slot, the tight end position. Henry a bit more than Smith, but then Smith also adds a dimension of running. He's showing in limited runs and touches, but he has shown that he can be efficient at it and can break a big one if need be. And Henry, I think, can line up in the slot. So I think both these guys are going to be on the field at the same time a lot during the season, most snaps, and that's because of their versatility. I think the vision here is they could line up as double tight or in spread, right? You look at the tight end position now in the NFL, and it is one where you just need to be an all-around good football player. They're lining the guys up from fullback, wing, tight end, slot, I think the only thing I haven't seen is a tight end lineup in the wideout position, So I think we're going to see a lot of that with those guys moving around the formation, running the ball, and doing a lot of different things in that New England offense. So I think they're going to be good fantasy value there. And the last part of it too is I think they have the most production to their name besides Aguilar on that out of receivers for New England right now too. Yeah, and Aguilar has never proven to be dependable. He kind of has the case of the drops. So, yeah.
Yeah, I mean, you can tell by like they weren't confident with the receiving core they had. Then they signed Aguilar and they signed was it Kendrick Bourne from San Francisco. So I mean, still nobody really jumping out at you being like elite trying to get those New England receiving targets. But my hot take here, my ice cold hot take, and because I feel like sometimes you bet on the Patriots or bet against the Patriots, it's going to bite you in the ass. But my ice cold hot take is actually a little bit different than Armin's. So my take is that the New England Patriots is going to be a very good NFL team, but will be a terrible fantasy football team. And what I mean by that is that I believe the New England Patriots are not only going to make the playoffs, I think they have a chance to win the division. Okay. Now I know they had a rough year. People are really doubting on Cam Newton, and I don't blame them. He had a really rough year, but I truly think that with the accusation with the requirements that they've got this past offseason with some of the guys they picked up, they not only made their offense seemingly better on paper, but they made their already incredibly good defense even better. Okay, they signed some big names on the defensive side. They're also getting some big names back from the year of sitting out because of COVID. So I feel like their defense from 2019, that was like potentially literally the MVP of football. Like if you had the Patriots defense, you were winning games single handedly. They were putting up 26, 30 points as
That
a
was
defense,
such a weird thing to see too.
and it was consistent. So
Yeah.
my take is that you don't want anybody, no offensive player. If anything, you want the defense. Okay, and here's why. Okay, so the new signings create a lot of uncertainty around who's actually going to get the ball. Now, all arrows point towards the tight ends, but you're not going to be able to trust either one of them. Like if you you're not going to get them both and start them both, and then even then you might just burning a position. So one day it might be a Hunter Henry week. Next week it might be a Jonnu Smith week. You don't really know. And from a tight end position, I know it's it's really hit or miss. You can't really trust either one of them. I think they're both going to cost very high draft picks. So the draft investment in their ADP compared to their return, I don't think is going to be worth it. Cam Newton's arm issues. He really showed that he struggled throwing the ball. I don't know if that's because of the surgery or if he's just that's what we can expect from Cam moving forward. But he only threw for, was it 2,600? Here we go, 2,600 yards and 8 touchdowns this year. The entire season, 8 touchdowns he only threw. So I mean, you distribute those 8 touchdowns. Even if one tight end gets all of them, then okay, then we're talking business here. But I just can't see it. I mean, he did rush for 14 touchdowns, so in certain aspects, streaming Cam could be okay, but you can't trust him. He showed it in the past that you couldn't trust him. They're a run first team, and they also have rumors of trying to pick up another running back. So I feel like they're going to be a run first, whether it's where they're going to put the eggs in the basket of Sony Michel, or they're going to pick up a free agent like Leonard Fournette, or they're rumored to try and get Chris Carson and be a run first team. And they're just going to rely on their good defense. Like you want to, if you're relying on a good defense to win you games, you're running the football because you're trying to burn the clock. So I feel like they're going to try and heavily rely on their defense to win football games and just run the football. So, I mean, at the end of the day, what are you left with? You're left with somebody that you don't really want to have any positions from New England for offense, that their defense is probably the only thing you might actually want for a fantasy perspective, but they will be a very good NFL team, make the playoffs, maybe win the division, but will not support any solid fantasy football players a year round. That's my take. So me and Armin, I guess at the end of the season, we'll figure out which one was actually right, because I guess for sure of us one will be right and one of us will be wrong. But any last little comments here before we wrap this episode up, Armin?
Let's keep it going. We got some good comments back from our first episode and some good suggestions on how we could improve it. And let's keep building and getting better. I'm enjoying this. This was a lot of fun today.
Yeah,
can't.
I was actually thinking, like, man, we should just do like one every week, because I was like so eager to do it again. Like it was a lot of fun. But yeah, we, like Armin mentioned, there's actually quite a few more people tuned in than I actually had anticipated. I thought we'd be in the single digits, but we ended up in triple digit territory. So that was actually kind of nice to see from our first episode, and just kind of things taken off there from that way.
Yeah.
But I guess now that mentioned, go ahead, Armin.
I guess you'd say thank you to everyone who did watch and liked it and commented and everything. Appreciate your support. Keep it coming.
Absolutely. Yeah. So check us out, Instagram and Twitter at 306FFB. Follow us and subscribe on not only YouTube, but we're now also on Spotify. We're also on Apple Podcasts, Google Podcasts. We're on iHeartRadio. So any sort of streaming platforms, you'll be able to find us on there. Just type in 306 Fantasy Football. Give us a like, give us subscriptions, even share the account a little bit. And hopefully we can kind of keep the good times rolling. Like Armin said, it's been a lot of fun, and hopefully this is something that we can continue doing and have a lot of fun doing it. So I guess that'll pretty well wrap it up for this segment here for the episode number 2, the free agent report cards edition. I guess thanks for listening to this episode, guys, and take care. We'll talk soon. Have a good day, everyone.